On KGW News, many people arrested at Portland protests will not be prosecuted. The new district attorney explains his decision. Plus, a son searches for answers after his father is killed in a hit and run.
You got to stop. You got to see if the person's all right, because at that point, it's it can be the difference between whether they live or die.
And the coronavirus means there will be no college football this fall for the Ducks or the Beavers.
This is KGW News at 11.
Good evening. We begin tonight with the race for Portland City Council. A runoff election is being decided right now for the seat left open by the late Nick Fish. It is too close to call at this hour. Here is a look at the results. Dan Ryan has a slight lead with 51% of the vote. Loretta Smith follows closely behind with 49% of the vote. I just spoke with Dan Ryan, who says he's cautiously optimistic about his lead. I asked him about an issue top of mind for many, what he would do to find a solution to protests in Portland and the issues demonstrators have raised.
I think it's time for us to have that peace summit and really bring together key players from all different sides. And imagine this, actually listen to each other. And I think once you listen to each other, you can find common goals and you can build from there. I am a bridge builder. My conflict negotiation skills are something I'm proud of, and I'm looking forward to being that person on City Council that can work with the rest of the team to do just that.
We'll keep following the results closely. You can check out the latest vote tallies anytime on KGW.com or on your KGW app. We now know Joe Biden's pick for running mate. It's California Senator Kamala Harris. With the presumptive Democratic ticket set, people are looking ahead to what could be a historic election. Catherine Cook has local reaction.
In an email to supporters and a tweet to America, Joe Biden announced he's picked Kamala Harris to be his running mate on the presumptive Democratic presidential ticket. In the middle of a pandemic, there was no rally with signs and cheers, but Harris responded via Twitter saying, quote, Joe Biden can unify the American people because he spent his life fighting for us. And as president, he'll build an America that lives up to our ideals. I'm honored to join him as our party's nominee for vice president and do what it takes to make him our commander-in-chief. If elected, Harris would be the nation's first female, Black, and Asian American vice president.
It has been a very difficult road for many African American women in politics.
Dr. Shirley A. Jackson is a professor in the Black Studies Department at Portland State University. She says Biden naming Harris as his VP pick speaks volumes about the need for a different leadership perspective.
And also really, makes clear the complexity of the demographic population in the United States. We're not all one thing.
Harris has been in the Senate since 2016. Before that, she was California's Attorney General and District Attorney in San Francisco. She ran against Biden for the Democratic presidential nomination, but left the race before voting started. In a tweet, Biden called Harris a, quote, fearless fighter for the little guy and one of the country's finest public servants.
As a Black Hispanics woman, I can't be more happy to have that representation.
Ariel Miles Hernandez is a student at PSU and community advocate. While she's thrilled with Harris's candidacy, she's curious about her background as a criminal prosecutor. Harris has faced criticism from some progressives over her record on criminal justice. Though this summer, she helped write Democrats' police reform legislation in the midst of protests over police brutality.
Dismantling these systems of racial bias that she has said in her, campaign, and has provided examples that, she's looking to change that structure.
Come November, Dr. Jackson believes that Harris, like President Obama, will ignite a voting surge.
Because this is a moment in history that many people have never seen and probably will not see for quite some time to come.
Harris and Biden are scheduled to appear together Wednesday in Wilmington, Delaware, Biden's hometown. They'll also hold a virtual fundraiser. Catherine Cook, KGW News.
President Trump today began criticizing the pick shortly after the announcement today. He said he was surprised by the selection.
She's a big tax raiser. She's a big slasher of funds for our military, and she's got a lot of difficult things that she's going to have to explain. Plus, she was very, very nasty to, one of the reasons that surprised me, she was probably nastier than even Pocahontas to Joe Biden.
President Trump twice donated to Harris while he was a private citizen, and she was running for re-election as California Attorney General. Protesters are gathered in southeast Portland again in front of the Multnomah County Sheriff's offices tonight. Police have told them not to trespass on the property, but we haven't seen any issues out there tonight. We found out today Multnomah County's district attorney will not prosecute most of the people arrested at Portland protests so far. The newly elected Mike Schmidt announced today he would only prosecute people who are involved in deliberate damage, theft, or violence. So those arrested for things like interfering with a police officer would never have to go to court. That's about 400 of the 550 arrests made since the protests started. Schmidt says it makes sense from a social justice and practical standpoint and allows peaceful protesters to be heard and not criminalized.
What we are doing is recognizing that the right to speak and have your voice heard is extremely important. If you are out there committing violence, as I said, if you're damaging property, those cases are going to be prosecuted.
There is plenty of opposition to the move. A large majority of you who've commented on our Facebook page are not happy with the new policy. We got a chance today to talk to one of the people arrested at the protest Sunday. Jason Britton's case is likely among those that wouldn't go to court under the new DA. He was arrested after he says police gave a warning from far away that a riot had been declared and they needed to leave the area. Jason was at the protest to shoot video, so he caught most of this on camera. He took issue with police arresting one of his friends who was working with him and admits he cursed at the officer, but says he otherwise didn't do anything wrong.
He had already given me a direct order to leave. I was complying with that order. He did not like the profanity I shouted. He may have construed that as enticing or whatever. But that he started chasing me, and like I said, I ran for my life because I was afraid. I didn't know what they were going to do. After what I had just witnessed, I felt like they were capable of anything.
Jason was charged with interfering with a police officer and disorderly conduct. He was released the next morning. In a developing story, investigators need your help tracking down the rider of either a moped or motorcycle who was involved in a deadly hit and run. The victim, Nolan Hine, leaves behind a family that's absolutely heartbroken. Mike Benner spoke with his son tonight.
He's very outgoing, smart guy.
Smart and outgoing is one way Ryan Hine remembers his dad, Nolan. Then there's this.
Very energetic. He was always on the go. Never really sat down much. Even at 67 years old, he's just very active, always out riding his bike.
KGW has learned on the evening of August 2nd, Nolan Hine was riding his electric bike on Southeast 82nd near Southeast Luther Road when he was struck by either a moped or motorcycle. Ryan remembers getting a call from staff at OHSU.
And she said that she needed permission to basically drill a hole into his brain. And so at some point I just said, yeah, go ahead and do it.
Ryan says doctors did everything they could to save his dad's life. But in the end,
they came back with the conclusion that he was brain dead and that, basically that he was just breathing because the machine was, making him breathe.
Nolan died the day after the crash.
I've had a lot of mixed emotions, I've had anger, I've been sad,
Ryan and his siblings are left processing their dad's death and the fact that the person suspected of hitting him, seen here in this grainy photo, fled the scene.
You got to stop. You got to see if the person's all right, because, at that point, it's, it can be the difference between whether they live or die.
Take another look at the moped or motorcycle rider police are hoping to track down. Families hoping for the same thing, if for no other reason than to know why they didn't stick around to help.
That could have possibly made the difference. Who knows?
Our hearts certainly go out to the Hine family. Nolan leaves behind not only 3 kids, but 6 grandchildren. Anyone with information about this case should contact Oregon State Police. I'm Mike Benner for KGW News.
New tonight, about 120 dogs and cats were seized from a Portland animal rescue and boarding facility. There were several complaints of abuse and neglect at Woofenpalooza. The animals are now at Multnomah County Animal Services. Veterinarians are checking them out. Investigators are asking anyone who's had animals in the care of Wolfenpalooza to give them a call. Coronavirus concerns have caused the Pac-12 to delay fall sports, so no football for the Ducks and Beavers this fall. And other sports are impacted as well. Our Orlando Sanchez breaks down the changes.
That's right, no Ducks or Beavers football in 2020. The Pac-12 Conference announcing all sports competitions are postponed through the remainder of the calendar year. So no football, basketball, or any sports normally played between now and the end of the calendar year for the Pac-12 Conference. The vote within the conference was unanimous to shut down competition till at least January 1st of 2021. Health and safety was at the top of the list. The short and long-term health effects of COVID-19. There were also testing concerns. Traveling to different places, especially flying commercially. University of Oregon President Michael Schill, along with the conference's medical advisory board, said they talked to students, coaches, athletic directors before making this decision.
We are science-based, right? We're academics. We are going to be looking at facts, not just opinions, and that's something that we're deeply committed to. At the same time, fully understand that this has tremendous human impacts. We have students whose dream it was to play this year. And that dream, at least in the fall, is not going to happen.
Commissioner Larry Scott said those athletes' scholarships would be guaranteed. And he is strongly encouraging the NCAA to extend eligibility for those athletes for losing this year of competition. Back to you.